Hi, Ebony. This is Dr. Jester. I want to go over your paper about Hinduism for just a moment. So, the instructions tell you to describe the important Vedic deities and their history of development and their functions. So, the first thing in your paper after your introduction should be to get into some kind of discussion about Vedic deities. There are several that have multiple functions. Some of them were important, now not so much. And some of them didn't used to be quite so important, and now they're more important within Hinduism. So that was one of the main focuses of the paper. The second thing was analyze the caste system and how that would function in the daily life of a particular Hindu individual, something that relates to, first of all, a development of the caste system, and then how does that work in, for example, someone of low caste? How do they relate to others? Then identify a Christian community living and serving in a Hindu context. Analyze the principles and practices of the group in light of the key Hindu beliefs and practices. And then finally, how Christians could use these benefits or these beliefs to further enhance their interactions with those who are adherents of Hinduism. Several things really to talk about in relation to your document. Let's go look up at the first here. You have a very good thesis. This is a good thesis. It's kind of general. You talk about how Christian religion cohabitates with the Hindu community. That's part of your thesis, and that is certainly one aspect of it. But the first thing you're to talk about is the Vedic gods, the deities. Looking through this, I don't see anything there. As a matter of fact, you already start talking about the caste system. Not much mention of the Vedic deities there. And as I look through your paper, it's basically talking about Christians in relation to Hindus. So you're not really discussing that. And the paper's kind of, it's not really organized according to those themes in the instructions. It really just starts off talking about Hindus and Christians in relationship. You get into Hindu belief systems, but you never really discuss the Vedic deities, and you don't get into much detail about the caste system either. It's mostly about Christians in relation to Hindus. So really the bulk of your paper is spent on one aspect, but it misses the major parts. But we have other concerns. You've got a lot of formatting issues that are going on here. For example, none of your paragraphs are indented. I indented this one just to show you what that should look like, but none of them are. You've got too much space between paragraphs. Going further down, for example, there's some wording issues, and that's not quite a big deal. Using contractions here, that's a problem, but not a major issue. The major issue starts coming in when you have long quotes. For example, let me go back. Where did I find that one? Here you didn't quite come up to style there. If you're going to mention the book, you've got to correctly notate it, and that needs to be in your reference section. Then when you speak of someone saying a particular thing, let me see if I can find that. Yeah. So right here you've got ending quotation marks, and it seems to be that this is the beginning of that. So all this appears to be one big quote. I don't know if it is or not, but that's the way you've got it organized. If you quote something, you can't just say, said this, whoever this gentleman is, I can't pronounce the name, but you can't just say, he said. You've got his name in quotation marks. So did someone say that he said and then quote his name? See, you're basically saying that you're quoting someone saying something about and saying that this person said it. It indicates to me that you're not really consulting the style guide at all. You're just doing this. And we had this problem in a couple of your previous papers. You've got these quotation marks, long sections of quotes without any reference, nothing to say who said what. And you do the same thing here. You've got this person said, discussed that, and then it just goes on and has this big long quote. First of all, to have a quote that large, It would have to be in block format, which is way too much quoting. But there's no reference material. There's nothing here that says Bob, 2011, page 12. There's nothing like that. That's missing. And if I go on down here and I look at the reference section, there is nothing here that tells me what where I could find any of those quotes. None of these are according to style. They're just a website URL, Universal Resource Locator. That's according to the style guide. When you consult the website, there's a specific format for notating that in your reference section, and you have to, in some way, show when you quote that where that comes from at the end. You've got to cite it correctly. Otherwise, we have style issues, and in your particular case, this is what Turnitin shows. Let me find the Turnitin report. So when I do a section quote on that, it's showing me 34% of your document comes from these sources right here, and here's where it's all coming from. It's not cited correctly, which that's taking their words, using them as your own, and you cannot do that. You've got to identify every source that you quote from. But Turnitin automatically brings up those percentages. It's showing that that much material is borrowed. It's not yours. You borrowed it. And it's okay to cite a source, but you're citing too much. It can't be over, it's not supposed to be over 20%. I give a warning when it's between 20 and 30, and at 30%, I'm required to ask you to rewrite and revise the paper. This has to come down to 20%. See this button right here? That's the filter button that default doesn't look for quotes, but if there are too many quotes in your document, Turnitin tells me that. And I've mentioned that to you previously about having these large quotations, and here we've got it again. But the most disconcerting thing for me is that you do not cite any source right here. There's nothing there to tell me where that came from. And that's just, you can't do that. People basically have problems when they use their words and don't properly credit them to the source. So what you have to do, if you got that from a website, you have to find the author who wrote those words on the website. Then you have to list the author's name, the date. If it's on a website, of course, you're not going to have a page number, but you must list the author of that website article and the date in which it was written. In the reference section, go to Turabian. There's a special way to format website access. You have to show the date that you actually looked at the website. So I don't believe any of this is information that you're just taking because you like it, but it's appropriate to what you're writing, but it's got to be done correctly, or we all get some problems that develop. And part of it is you just are learning how to do this, and I'm going to help you how to do this. But you have to, when I tell you not to use those quotes previously, it means that going forward you shouldn't be using them. And you have to quote sparingly in a document. The purpose of a quote is simply to show something that's very germane to your argument. But in most cases, you don't want to quote the source. What you want to do is reference the source for the idea, but summarize their idea. Not use their words, but summarize their idea. It shows that you have actually consulted with the source. You know the source. You don't have to use their words because you already know what they're talking about. So the basic problem is we've got content issues, we've got style issues, and most importantly, we've got too many quotes in this document that are not cited correctly. So this will have to be revised. You're going to have to get this down below 20%. I know that similarity said 0%, but we're not at 0%. We're at 34% of your document. Too much reliance on the sources, not cited correctly, and must be revised. If you have any questions about that, let me know.